Race day number 2 in Hockenheim will be starting very shortly. Before that, we go qualifying for another 25-minute session, and conditions are a little bit worse than when we left yesterday. The rain that has been on and off this morning has been on. It is a very topsy-turvy day in terms of what the conditions are doing. You need to leave the hotel in the morning with your sleeves rolled up, but take your rain jacket with you and bring your shades just in case. But also don't forget your umbrella because we did have a big smattering of rain about an hour ago. The track is still wet, and so the drivers making their way out onto the circuit, I can imagine, on those wet Michelin tyres. 25 minutes of qualifying to come. And we should keep an eye on the Pro-Am runners in this session as well. We mentioned yesterday that only 2 of the Pro-Am crews fielded their quick drivers yesterday. Well, that means that everyone else has got their quick driver in for this session. So keep an eye on the likes of Jamie Stanley, Lucas Dunner, at Fabio Babini, Carol Bash in the Olymp Audi as well. Remember in Portimao at the start of last year in similar conditions where he was awesome. Alex Fontana in the car collection Porsche. We know how well that car can go in these sorts of conditions. But the pro runners as well, of which there are many, 15 for this weekend, with the addition of 2 cars from Garage 59 and Santaloc that were originally going to be Pro-Am entries. Let's see how they fare. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in for this qualifying session. And George, tricky conditions out there to meet the drivers.
Largely different to yesterday. More akin to what we saw in free practice on Thursday, where it was mightily changeable. This time definitive, with the fact that there's a huge amount of spray coming off each and every car. See there the wheel spin on the BDR Grupo Prom. Just every car jostling for track position. You need that clear air ideally, especially here in Hockenheim. Plenty of runners in this field, 29 in total. Here ahead of race 2, of course, but qualifying first and foremost to decide who is indeed going to be fastest. But a magnificent result yesterday, of course, for Garage 59, with another car added to the rostrum. Of course, Marvin Kirker, Thomas Fleming appearing here at Hockenheim for this very round. Obviously, we do still wish the very best to Miguel Ramos and hope that he returns after a speedy recovery. But what a performance on the back off the back of Marvin Kirker for stunning qualifying yesterday. Thomas Fleming bringing it home to victory in their both their first appearances in the International GT Open.
Yes, it was a very interesting race that was heavily affected by a full course yellow during the driver change period that put the Garage 59 car on the back foot, but Thomas Fleming was able to fight back once we got green again after that full course yellow turned into a safety car. If you weren't with us yesterday, the reason that we have a pro Garage 59 car was that it was originally going to be a Pro-Am car with Tom Fleming and Alexander West, one of the 3 team bosses over at Car Collection, alongside Andrew Kirkaldie and Chris Goodwin. But Miguel Ramos, who's normally in the 188 AM car with Mark Sampson, was unwell, and so they put Alex West in the AM car, and Marvin Kirchhofer got the call at 10 p.m. on Thursday night. Luckily, he was here anyway, helping out Heiko Neumann over at Team Motorpark to fill in with Tom Fleming, and that car then became a full-on pro entry. Similar story over at Santaloc as well. Their regular bronze driver, Michael Blanchimont, not here this weekend, and it is Matisse Lismont inside the number 26 Audi. So 15 pro entries all in all for this weekend. This is Christopher Haase in the East Talent Audi that finished second yesterday, one of the big beneficiaries of that safety car period, because it allowed Chris to start slicing through the field. And as much noise as we hear from the East Talent Garage about how their car isn't working quite the way they want it to be, they keep dragging good results out of it. It is their 3rd podium finish that they managed to score in 4 races so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the team at Easterland, they were very clear to us, I think especially in the paddock, that in the initial rounds, they, you know, certainly at Portimao and Spa as a whole, they weren't expecting to take big points through the early stages of this championship. They've very much gone against the grain of what they expected to achieve, and for their own good, to be honest with you, because there is still a huge championship fight, obviously, in this very early stage, and they're looking to defend their titles. So Christopher Haase, Simon Riker doing a grand stint. Fleming has just popped himself into 2nd fastest in the initial laps. Obviously, it'll take a while before we see the cars dialed in. Tommaso Mosca going purple, and now this time around in the first sector as well. And they certainly had an action-packed day yesterday after receiving a time penalty mid-race, Chris.
Yes, it was Carl Bennett into the back of the Santaloc Audi at the hairpin that rather undid their race. They still managed to come away with a top 9, did the Santaloc crew on the recovery, but Tommaso Mosca now at the wheel of that car, and we'll be starting. Now, it looks like we've had a car going through and smashing one of the brake marker boards.
Lawn mowing.
There, yes. A little bit of lawn mowing on the run out of the Mobile 1 curve and into the Sachs curve as Mosca gets it very sideways over the curbing. You've got to be very, very careful, and a lot of patches of this surface are new. It's turns 1, 2, 6 and 18, I believe, that have... no, turn 8 and 16, sorry, that have had a resurfacing since we've last been here. And so when you sprinkle some water onto that,
very greasy.
It gets very, very slippery. Not quite as slippery as the drag strip that runs adjacent to the final 2 corners, but still very, very slippery out there at this part of the track as well, where that fresh rubber is.
We had a little bit of a taster of it yesterday when we had the light shower. Well, I say a light shower, it's quite a heavy shower, but it was a brief one that's only spanned a small portion. It was essentially what led to us almost coming under yellow conditions, which eventually, of course, came to a head. A couple of cars going off track because, of course, we were still embracing the slick tyre. And it was obviously we were having conversations here in the commentary box, wondering whether we will see the wet tyre midway through the race. And there was a chance of us seeing that, but obviously the rain then dissipated. Fleming now going to the top, now registering a 1:48.813, and that places him over 3 1/4 tenths faster than Haase at the top of the shop. But you've got to be so wary of track limits here at Hockenheim too.
Yeah, you certainly do. Turns 1 and I think the exit of 4. And then, of course, coming into the stadium section as well, and at the last corner, those are all places where the track limits can be abused as Mosca makes his way back into that stadium section. So you'll see the exit curbing here. It is very easy to do track limits, as indeed he did go over the white line there. So I'm sure race control will be studying these laps in earnest. And how is this lap for Mosca so far? It's a personal best, but again skates off the road.
Yeah, took quite a bit of the grass on the inside, so that's going to bring a stopper immediately to Mosca's lap. Still remains 4th fastest at the moment. Won't worry too much for now, but obviously as soon as you get some of that dew off the grass onto your tyre as well, that's only going to add to the slippery effect that you're going to be feeling out on circuit. So it might take a little bit of time for him to dispel that off the tyre as Haase returns to the top ahead of Tom Fleming. Here is another moment, BDR Grupo Prom Mercedes, and that's the 77 version of Alfredo Hernandez, of course, riding solo here this time. Of course, no driver alongside him for the changeover period later on. He'll be going the whole way round like he did yesterday.
Yeah, so just lost it on the exit of turn number 12. That explains where that dirt has come from. Here's Ralph Aron, who is 3rd fastest in the number 86 Get Speed Mercedes, that went from 29th on the grid, I believe, to 5th in the race. Quite the storming drive, and again, big beneficiary from the safety car period, allowing the Mercedes Works driver to come through the pack. Tom Fleming goes fastest again on a 1:48.112. We don't really have a reference time for these conditions. There were 2 sessions. The wetter session yesterday, the fastest time was a 1:41.9, but I think the conditions are quite a bit worse than what we had in that session. So we don't really have a reference point for this, but at the moment it's nearly 3 tenths in favour of Fleming over Haase.
Well, when we talk about the conditions we experienced in free practice, they were very changeable. They were on and off all the time. There was no settled period, and many of the AM runners were actually getting a little bit concerned because they weren't actually getting any proper dry running in. It was everything in between, really. So it was neither one or the other, and we know what drivers are like. They love to have a stint or a time on track where everything is the same, so that you do have that reference point to work on when you head into the weekend. So that's less than ideal. This is the Mosca moment, heading onto the grass right now. As you can just see there, lost to the rear and had to cut the bend as well, coming through in towards the final 2 corners before starting his next lap. So a bit of an error there on part of Mosca, but I'm sure not all his own doing given the slick conditions we have out on circuit. Haase immediately coming back into the pits for a review, and he'll be heading straight back out, I'm sure, with just over 15:25 to go.
Valentin Pierberg here in the number 20 SBS Mercedes Pro-Am Championship leader, finished 2nd in class yesterday, but one of only 2 cars with their bronze driver amongst the Pro-Am field for this session. The other one is the car that won yesterday, Steve Jans, but they're acquitting themselves very nicely at the moment. Steve Jans 5th in class and Valentin Pierberg 9th in class, as we see a big moment there for Mathis Lismont.
In a big title fight as well, the Pierberg Steve Jans. It's going to be a very interesting season for those two,
Yeah.
obviously as a pair, well, certainly not as a pairing, but as a pair of teams that are going to go after this Pro-Am title.
There's only 2 points now, the advantage for the SBS crew over Steve Jans and Aaron Walker, who took the win yesterday. Mosca on another run here. Fabio Babini has just gone fastest in the first sector aboard the Tsunami Racing Team Porsche. We have personal best coming in for Robo Viso U as well in the number 13 Mercedes, as Mosca here is coming under fire from the 28 BDR Grupo Prom machine of Amory Bondwell. Here is Fabio Babini, fastest in the first sector, as we mentioned. The Porsche tends to run quite well in these conditions, owing to its rear-engine nature. The traction it's able to produce is quite something, but speaking to some of the drivers, it's the lateral traction zones that, ironically, is where the Porsche is not so strong, which is what we have an awful lot of here. And also, Babini at the moment is not being helped too much by Matisse Lismont in front of him. He's lost a lot of time in that middle sector.
Well, unfortunately for Fabio Babini and Tsunami, they will not be causing a storm in these wet conditions, unfortunately, on this particular lap, given that they have been slowed up. Obviously 1.6 now coming out of that middle sector, but quite fitting for Tsunami RT to be here at a very wet Hockenheimring circuit.
Carol Bash has just put in a personal best, a 1:49.3 to go 5th fastest, still the best of the Pro-Am runners. It is Yannick Mettler for Carbahn and then Lucas Dunner for Motorpark, the top 3 in that class at the moment, in 8th and 9th overall. And there you can see the slide that Lismont had coming out of turns 10 and 11.
Yeah, also at Thomas Fleming now, returning to the start-finish line. 5 thousandths off his previous best in the middle, but coming across the line remains first fastest. Alex Fontana also about to come around the final corners as well. He's put in a personal best in the first and second sector and looking to carry it through as well to the third. Of course, we'll wait and see how he fares crossing the line, but there is Fleming at the moment. Of course, our current standings leader. This isn't a replay, folks. This is live shots here at the moment. Fontana now 3rd fastest, registering a time just beyond 3.5 tenths of a second. Personal best also coming in for Philip Ugran, down in 18th, currently sat there at the moment, looking to register a more equatable lap time. Ideally would want to be in the 49s in that middle sector. It's a 50.0 as it stands, as we now return to another McLaren, this time the Optimum Motorsport number 4. Of course, Mikey Porter is going to be in the seat for this one, I believe. And a very busy Anthony Bartone and Fabian Schiller garage as well at Get Speed. Anthony Bartone in the seat this time after Schiller took the start yesterday.
There was not a side of that car that wasn't dented after yesterday's race. Yeah, Bartone got a bit roughed up in the second part of that race, falling away from the lead. Of course, I'll be hoping things go a little bit more smoothly today in a car that should be in championship contention. But they have had a couple of difficult races amongst a couple of podium finishes, though, as well. Here's Fontana, 3rd fastest, best of the Pro-Am runners as it stands. 3.5 tenths away from Fleming on his best lap. And this lap is not an improvement for him so far. But you can see he's on the tail of the other Garage 59 car, which is Mark Sampson, which is currently the quickest car in the AM category, as they go through the Sachs curve. And is it that Sampson trying to let him through? I think he slowed up quite a bit in the middle sector there, did Sampson. So just letting the Porsche go. Of course, Hash a bit miffed with himself after the spin he had in race 1 yesterday that probably cost them a shot at the podium. But we've talked about the beneficiaries of the safety car. The car collection actually ended up losing a lot of time because of that safety car as well. So Fontana really could only muster a top 5 finish in the end.
And I can understand Hash's frustration because they have had a wonderful season so far leading up to Hockenheim. I mean, they really did start well back at Portimao, and then as well Spa, tremendous effort. And this is a team that could yet cause quite the stir in the Pro-Am fight this season.
Well, he was the top bronze driver in the race at the time.
Yeah.
Or amongst the Pro-Am runners at the very least anyway. So, recalibrate and go again, of course, as is Tommaso Mosca here, still wrestling that Ferrari through the
corner as well.
Yeah, through the stadium section. It's not a fantastic middle sector for him, but it is a personal best in the first one. So let's see when he goes across the timing line. Christopher Haas has put in a personal best as well that's up on Thomas Fleming's time, as Mosca doesn't improve in the end, so stays 7th fastest. Here is Christopher Haase coming out of the hairpin, and he's got the Garage 59 car in front of him, which should be the car that won yesterday, the number 8 machine, and has to go to the inside. That going to compromise his time. Normally, you want to be off the racing line slightly, don't you? No, sorry, it was Mark Sampson, wasn't it? The green wingtip. It's slightly different to the one I've got on my spotter's guide there, but Haase doesn't improve in the middle sector. Thomas Fleming's just gone fastest in the middle sector, actually, but it's still a decent lap for Haase here. Now, the Audi can run very well in the wet conditions, as can Chris himself, of course, and have to get used to this. Expect to see similar conditions at the Nürburgring 24 hours in a couple of weeks' time. But Haase out of the final corner here. Still wrestling with that Audi and driving up towards the timing line. Is he going to be able to close in on Fleming? Wow, a mighty final sector from Christopher Haase puts him fastest by 36 thousandths of a second. And Fleming did not improve, but that lap time has just been deleted.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Must have been something perhaps in that improvement, perhaps in the final sector, because that was an almighty 3.5 tenths plus that he managed to find off the back of it now as we watch as Tom Emson. We're right on board now with the elite car. We see that often coming through turn 1 where you kind of lose it a little bit, just the under route of the car, just the traction, you lose it. It's so easy to do. As we now watch as Emson now makes his way out of turn 2 through turn 3. Obviously Elite having also a fabulous season so far to date. They have been, well, I don't think they've been outside the points once, Chris, so far.
On the podium again yesterday. It's the second podium for the team in their first year of GT3 racing, and 2 young gun GT4 graduates from within the team as well. This is Carol Bash on a hot lap here. Oh,
that was close.
so close at the hairpin. Hopefully that hasn't compromised him too much. That was Haase sliding his way through the left-hander at turns 10 and 11, and he has managed to find some time in the first sector here, and let's see if this time, if he can keep it on the road.
Got a bit of traffic, though.
That looks like that might be the track limits again, though. Oh, that's a car in the gravel at the Sachs curve.
Only one came out of Sachs as well.
Who was the car ahead of? It's
there it is.
The 31.
Fontana.
Yeah.
Fontana's off. He's just rejoining now. So the car collection Porsche coming to an immediate stopper straight away. So really unfortunate there for Alex Fontana. Even the best drivers suffering under these conditions as well. Just look at this slider here from Christopher Haase. I mean, that is an experienced driver at the wheel there, folks. Of course, Haase, we all know as a former Audi Works driver. Of course, still associated strongly with Audi under the Easterland banner, for example, here in the International GT Open, but a phenomenal talent.
Certainly is. So it seems like Fontana's been able to keep going. And we'll try for another lap. He's still third fastest and best of the Pro-Am runners, but maybe just a little caught out, because he was very close to Yannick Mettler on the road, who's his nearest class rival as it stands. So this is our provisional pole sitter still, after that lap time deleted for Christopher Haase, and he was about to pull the pin there, but came up on Philippe Stellacarda in the ISR Audi, and so backing off to give himself some space here. He's got to be too careful not to get in the way of Valentin Pierberg there either, but now builds up towards the quick lap. 6 minutes left on the clock. Yeah,
absolutely right. Personal best also coming in for Amaury Bonduelle as well, down in 20th place for BDR Grupo Prom. Of course, the team boss for that organisation that joined the championship this year. Of course, Bonduelle, you might remember from his rare appearance for Oregon Team Lamborghini in prior campaigns, and Dre Bonsamini also putting in a personal best in the middle once again to correspond with the first sector as well. So looking to jump up from P25 for Mertel. Ferrari as Thomas Fleming now goes fastest in that first sector, or shall I say put in a personal best at the very least. He is still at the top of the shot, but Christopher Haase rumbling in a purple middle this time around as well. So these are the top 2 that are basically duking it out over this top place. They've been swapping endlessly right through the course of this qualifying session. Haase having times deleted, an error there perhaps from Thomas Fleming.
Yeah,
he just got those wheels caught coming out of turn 6.
So Fleming wide on that lap, not the ideal line through the hairpin at all. Here's Haase again, and does manage to go quickest by 1/10 of a second. No purple sectors in there, but still managed to pull out a 1:48.011. And we'll see, it hasn't been deleted yet, and so hopefully this one will stand. But it is the reigning champion, of course, Christopher Haase, #1 on the side of the car for a reason. And yeah, we see the time that Fleming has lost there as well, 4/10 in that middle sector. Obviously still 5 minutes left on the clock, but it does seem like a battle between the reigning champions at East Talent in their Audi and Garage 59 in their guest-entered McLaren.
Yeah, and also credit to Santalok as well, because Matisse Lismont has just rocketed his way up further inside this top 10. Remember, they were down in around the P10 position not too long ago. Well, he's just punched in a time that is within a second. In fact, it's just beyond 9 3/4 of a second away from Christopher Haase at the moment. Philippe Salacada for ISR Audi pops into 13th as well. Audi very well represented here for this round this time, and it's great to see. But at the moment, it is still Haase in his Audi that sits at the top of the shop. Robert Visoyu goes into 15th fastest as well, but they are a long way off from closing in on the 1:48.011 that brought Haase to the P1 dance here with 4 minutes to go.
So Fleming making his way down the Parabolica, and let's see if this lap is going to be the one for him. Needs to recalibrate that braking point into the hairpin this time. Of course, the track constantly changing, constantly evolving, drying all the way, probably finding more and more grip out there, and that was probably just the wet line we saw there going around the outside of a slow corner, nowhere near as wide as he was last time around, but it's not an improvement in the first sector from Fleming, but he's not far away from Haase, although is this traffic going to cause him some bother? He's got Alex Fontana directly in front of him, and who else as well? The ISR Audi, as well as Tommaso Mosca, and the 63 as well of Antoine Docan. So well, there goes one of the Mercedes just clearing the path, but Fleming's completely backed out of the lap now and wide. Through the Mobile 1 curve. That's Haase in the pits, so that looks like... Well, no, they're going to go out again, are they? So it's going to be a one lap. Oh, listen to that wheel spin and the V10 roaring away there. So it's going to be one lap, one more flying lap then from Christopher Haase.
Prepare for cinema, folks. That's all I'll say. And I was just, you might have heard me scoffing a little bit earlier on. I was watching down at Sachs Curve. There was some side-by-side, because we've got a good view of the stadium section here in the commentary box. There was a very close coming together with, I believe, Tommaso Mosca and a Oregon team Lamborghini just making its way out. They were almost crisscrossing on the escape coming out of turn 12. Very close to contact, and you've got to be conscious of that, especially in these conditions too. So, Motorpark car there, number 11. That is the championship leading car, Levente Reves, who leads the championship. It's Maxi Gertz in the car at the moment, who's not leading the championship with Levente because he wasn't with us at the first round. Gertz fourth fastest at the moment. There's Haase on his out lap. And Fleming here going for another one. It's a personal best for Fleming in the first sector so far. 23.2 in the first sector. Let's see what he does at the hairpin. We've seen him run wide on a couple of occasions here, and he tries that wider line again. And although it's not purple in the first sector, it is up on what Christopher Haase managed to do. Fontana also with a personal best at 23.2 as well, matching the pace of Thomas Fleming so far in the first sector. So maybe Haase does need this last flying lap with that fresh set of boots on his car. It would make sense, but Fleming still showing his colours as a quality driver. Gave us a good taste of it yesterday in purple, or should I say up on the best time already coming out of the middle sector as well. And that is, of course, placed against Christopher Haase, who is still on top at the moment, but has to jostle against a sister McLaren, not of course, the Greystone team, should I say the Garage 59 team. That is, of course, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. He's making his way by. Hopefully, in his mind, it wouldn't have cost him too much, but now making his way through the very treacherous final couple of corners. We'll wait and see what Thomas Fleming can add to the rostrum as he now curtails his way up towards the line. Can he improve once more? Will he have lost time? Here comes Fleming. 28 seconds left. Can he go faster? Yes! Into first fastest by a mere 29 thousandths. Over to you, Christopher Haase.
Alex Fontana stayed in third place. He improved in time, but not in position. And Christopher Haase at 23.4 in the first sector. He's down by 0.2 of a second. Still got the rest of the lap to try and rescue this one. A fresh set of boots aboard that East Talent Audi, but it looks like it could be Fleming's unless Haase can pull something out of the bag. He's got some relatively clear track in front of him. Not too much to have to think about. The next car in front of him is Steve Jans. You can just see him go through the picture there right in front of him, going through turn number 8. But Haase keeping it neat and tidy. This is where he had the big slide a few laps ago, and again the rear end complaining a little bit as he tries to put the power down and steer the car through the left-hander. But into the final sector we go, and it's still not an improvement, 3/10 down, but it was the last sector where Haase was awesome earlier on. So let's just keep an eye. He might still be able to bag something out. It would be extraordinary if he manages to pull this lap back. Though Fontana with an improvement in the middle sector, but a little bit away on the lap overall from his best that he did last time around. Last chance here for Christopher Haase as he exits the final corner and shakes the rear of the Audi and picks up a little bit of grass as well. That won't have done him too many favors, and he doesn't improve. And a good lap coming in here from Ralph Aron as well. He's improved in the middle sector. He's 6th fastest at the moment. Fontana doesn't improve on that one. He meets the checkered flag. Where is Ralph Aron on the lap? Just coming around the final 2 corners. At the moment, it's still Fleming fastest. It looks like it's going to stay that way as well. We'll just wait to see where Ralph Aron comes through. 1.1 seconds off at the moment as he drives up towards the timing line and improves to 5th position ahead of Matisse Leesmore, but still a second away from that man, Thomas Fleming. It's back-to-back pole positions for the Garage 59 number 8 crew.
Oh, they are enjoying a wonderful weekend so far, obviously taking not just the overall pro win yesterday, they also took the AM win with Mark Sampson and Alexander West. Of course, West reappearing after featuring in the International GT Open back in 2018 and seasons prior to that as well. The Swede returning once again and bringing yet more silverware for Garage 59. But now they can enjoy back-to-back pole positions. Thomas Fleming back on top. Also credit, just late in the day, Mikey Porter improving the Optimum Motorsport car from what was nearly 20th place, now up into 13th, so a little closer.
Results then from Q2. It's back-to-back pole positions for the number 8 Garage 59 crew. Only 29 thousandths of a second ahead of Christopher Haase. Alex Fontana fastest of the Pro-Am runners. Then comes Maxi Gertz for Team Motorpark, ahead of Ralph Aron for GetSpeed. Matisse Leesmont for Santalog. Yannick Mettler second of the Pro-Am runners after his podium yesterday, ahead of Tom Empson and Carol Bash and Fabio Babini. And more Pro-Am runners completing the top 10 for Olymp and Tsunami Racing. Further down, we had Tommaso Mosca in the AF Corsa Ferrari, Jamie Stanley in the Pro-Am AF Corsa Ferrari, Mikey Porter for Optimum, Lucas Dunner, Philippe Salacada, Anthony Bartone, Robert Bissou, Philip Ugram, James Kell down in 19th place, and Steve Jans as the top bronze driver in the session in 20th, ahead of Anne-Marie Bondwell, Valentin Pierberg, another bronze driver, Andrea Montemini for Mertel, and it is double Garage 59 pole positions with Mark Sampson on top in the AM category. Antoine Dokan down in 25th place. Disappointing for them. Gino Forgione, Alfredo Hernandez, Stanislav Jedlinski and Yuri Navratil in the guest entered full-in race by Interaction Audi, completing the 29 car field. So as much as it was double victory for Garage 59 yesterday, double pole position for them as well. They are enjoying a great weekend here in the International GT Open, although we expect it to be a sort of more normal service resumed with just the 1 car entered from this race onwards, hopefully with Miguel Ramos returning to the 188 car.
Yeah, absolutely right. Of course, the wet weather still continuing to tumble down here at Hockenheimring, as it has certainly done through the course of Thursday in free practice. We got away with it yesterday, but it has reappeared today, but it did not dampen the spirits of Garage 59. Thomas Fleming once again putting on a stellar display. Haase gave it his all. Alex Fontana, some familiar names up at the front, and our, of course, title leaders. Max Gertz are in 4th as well, but we now have an interview with Thomas Fleming.
Tom Fleming, not a bad start out of the day.
No, absolutely. We've carried on as we did yesterday with Marvin's Super Pole lap, and yeah, tricky conditions out there. This circuit in the wet doesn't really have a lot of grip, especially with all the painted curbs everywhere. It makes it quite difficult. And yeah, we just did a good job to get a lap in right at the end there. We were struggling with traffic and a little bit of grip. But yeah, once we were able to put it all together, we did a lap time obviously good enough for pole. So yeah, Garage 59 executed everything really, really well, and look forward to starting on pole for today's race.
And a good fight with Hazard.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't see it as well as you guys can, but you know, my engineer was telling me, okay, you're fighting with Hasser, you know, 3/10, 1/10, da 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 da, and he's like, Tom, we just need 1/10 to go top. I was like, oh, last lap coming up here, no pressure then, and but yeah, no, we did a good job overall, and really looking forward to see how this evening, yeah, seeing how this afternoon plays out.
Well done for now. All the best.
Well, the 60-minute race 2 for the International GT Open here at Hockenheim kicks off at 1:10 local time. We'll see you then.